Hello, real worlders. This is Brian. This is my channel, Real World Problems. Today, I got a treat for you. Today, we're going to do a daily update on inflation, right? So, one of my top fans called me up there today and was like, hey, can you explain inflation a little better? Because I'm kind of, this is kind of confusing. And, there's a lot of propaganda on TV and online about what causes it and, what is it exactly. And so the best way I can describe it is, so let's say, something costs $100, let's say. And let's say you have something that you want to buy that's $100, and then now you go back to the store. You save your $100. You go to the store. Well, now you find out they just jacked up the price to $110, right? That'd be a 10% increase and inflated price, right? So now your $100 doesn't go as far, right? So now you're basically having to work that little extra at your job to save up that extra $10 to pay for that. Well, that usually only works for so long. And eventually, after you get $10 to death, you eventually go up to your boss and be like, I'm tired of working overtime here and just to make ends meet, just to get what I used to be able to get with a full paycheck. And now I can't even get that. Like, I can't even get a full grocery cart of food or fill up my gas tank or anything like that because inflation is too high, because last year gas prices were, $3 a gallon. Now it's $4 a gallon. Well, 3 to 4, that's basically a dollar increase. That'd be 30% inflation, right? On gas. So the way I look at inflation, every time, the best way to see inflation is at the pump, right? It it's actually a very good indicator, right? So you drive to work every day, you drive by gas stations every day, you see that price of gas, right? Every time you see that price tick up like 10, 20 cents, 30 cents, that's just less money that you're going to have out of your paycheck because, you're going to have to put that in your tank. You know what I mean? So you know that gas is going to be a little more pricey next time you go fill up, right? So then you're like, oh man, now I can't fill up my tank. And so what do you do? Well, you can either work more hours. Well, there's only so many hours in a day, right? So then you have to eventually ask for boss for a raise. You get a raise at work, and what does that do? Puts more money in your pocket. Well, then what happens? Now there's more money out there, and so the whole reason why they had to raise gas prices in the first place was because there's a shortage, right? If there's a shortage in something, they don't want you to buy it, you know? They want you to buy less. That's the only way to get prices back down is to buy less. Well, if everybody gets a raise, so let's say gas prices went up, you know, 20%. Well, let's say you got a 20% raise. Well, now you're back to even, right? Well, then, but they still don't have any gas. So now they're going to have to, uh, if they can't drill any for any more oil or anything, then they're going to have to jack up their price again. Well, then they're going to jack it up another 20%. Well, then next time you're like, oh, well, maybe I can just go to my boss again and ask for another raise. Yeah, right. Good luck with that. Okay, so the boss is going to be like, oh, man, I just gave you a raise last week. I can't give you another raise. And you're like, well, gas price just went up to $5 a gallon. I can't afford, the extra, money to put in my gas tank. How am I going to get to work? So, and then you start dealing with the struggles of life, right? So it's very interesting. I got another example here. If that didn't explain it very well, here is for a cup of Joe, right? So over the years, this shows inflation. since 1970, right? So in 1970, a cup of coffee cost 25 cents, right? And and then it shows that it went from 25 cents to 45 cents. Basically, you could almost say that doubled in price. You know what I mean? Because 45 cents is pretty darn close to 50. Um, Now you're gonna ask, wow, you know, you're like, okay, if it doubled in price, that's almost 100% inflation, right? So you're like, wow, what the heck? Why did it go up 100%? Well, back in the 70s, we had really high inflation. It was like 15, almost 20% inflation, if you have a couple of years in a row of 20% inflation, yeah, everything's going to double in price, So, and then if you look on from 1980 to 1990, it went from 45 to 75. And that's basically because we still had that lingering inflation from the 80s, and it's still kind of not quite doubled. You probably went up another 50%. You know what I mean? But it's still triple what it is back in 1970. So it went up. That would be basically 200% inflation, if I'm correct here, from in 20 years. So, and then from 1990 to 2000, it only went up 25 cents from 75. So you're looking, so 25 cents out of 75, you're looking at, that's about a third. So inflation dropped to about 30% inflation again. So you're looking at, here you basically had almost 100% inflation. There you had about 40% inflation, and then it drops down to about 30% inflation for the next 10 years. And then here you go from 2000 to 2010. Now you're going down a little more, from $1 to $1.25. So now it's 25% inflation for 10 years. And then here you go from $1.25 to $1.60. And that's about, I would say it's about the same, probably 25% inflation from 2010 to 2021. Now, but what just happened just recently, right? Everybody's been talking about inflation, right? And anybody who's gone to the grocery store or gone out to eat or really done anything, rent, things are more expensive, right? And if you haven't got a raise at work, I would probably be asking here or maybe looking for another job, because everything is crazy. And I've seen things almost double in price just in the last maybe year or two, you know what I mean? And so let's check it out. Okay, so back in 2021, you could buy a cup of coffee for $1.59. So here, I actually went on the Starbucks website. I actually probably order a little too much from Starbucks sometimes, so it's one of my guilty pleasures, But it's here you got your medium Pike's Place, cup of coffee, just basic cup of coffee, and here you are at $2.95, right? So if you go back to that picture, $3, that's almost double the inflation in what, 2 years? This is, according to this, is 2021, which I totally agree with this, because I order coffee all the time at Starbucks, and I remember just back in 2020, I was getting a cup of coffee for around $2, and then it actually was a little less than $2, like $1.80, $1.90, or something like that. And then it jacked up. Just a few months later, it was like like $2.25, and then it went up to $2.50, and then now it's basically $3 now. So just like that, boom, you doubled the price of coffee in 2 years. So that when this chart updates, it's gonna look terrible. Yeah, you're gonna probably have. I think it's gonna be worse than the 70-80 transition here, where this is not even double. This should have been 50 cents if it doubled. This year, I mean, if we're already double and it's only been 2 years, they claim they got the inflation rate down to it's like 3.5% right now. If I'm not mistaken, I haven't really been keeping track, but and even that number is kind of skewed. I literally don't believe a word the Federal Reserve says, because they tend to not tell a lot of mistruths, if you know what I mean, because a lot of their job is to not cause panic in the public. And so if they tell you it's all hunky-dory out there, then that way you keep shopping and keep buying stuff and keep the economy humming along. So yeah, so this is one instance of inflation. Anybody who spends money knows this is true, and very few items have actually stayed the same. I actually did a trip at Costco just today, and I was actually kind of surprised. There was actually a few items there, like there were some Christmas decorations and stuff, and they actually were about the same price as last year. So that was really surprising to me. But then, you just walk down the aisle and, you look at, some steak or something like that. Well, steak was, gosh, I remember when I used to not pay over, back in, I would say 2020, or just before the pandemic, I wouldn't pay more than $6 a pound, $7 a pound. I'd usually get on sale, don't get me wrong, but for a nice, good quality steak, like a New York strip or something like that, I usually could find it on sale for about $6, $7 a pound. And I thought $10 was outrageous for steak, just a few years ago, and now I can't find steak for, gosh, I mean, just a few months ago, it seemed like the prices were starting to go down, and I was able to get steak for maybe $11 a pound. But just recently, like at Costco, I went there and I was looking at the prices, and it was around $16 for New York strip. So that right there, I mean, $16 when we used to pay $8, $7, that's double the price. I mean, it's crazy. So definitely minimizing the steak intake. Which is that designed? I don't know. That could be another conspiracy, right? So we'll see what happens. There's a lot of theories out there about why inflation, is necessary, and why some people actually like inflation versus, and there's a lot of theories behind that. If you want me to talk about it, let me know. I make another video about it. It's a very interesting topic, and you could literally go on for days about it. So I'll leave it at that, and we'll call it a night. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. Peace out.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, go.